Salindal from Electronic Engineering student. So this time I gonna doing differentiation rules, and I gonna doing the basic rules of differentiation from rule number 1 to rule number 5. But before that, what is differentiation? Differentiation is the process to calculate the rate of change of quantities, such as velocity and acceleration, temperature variation, production performance, and many others. Otherwise, differentiation is the process to obtain the derivative. So, this is the rules of differentiation. Rule number 1, the derivative of a constant. So, the formula for the derivative of a constant is d over the dx c is equal to 0. So, the c, where the c is a constant. So, for number 2, the derivative of an identifying function. So, the formula for this is the d over the dx. So, x is equal to 1, or d over dy, y is equals to 1. In the power rule, from the rule number 3, d over dx, x to the exponent of n, so it's equal to nx, the n to the exponent of n minus 1. So, for the constant multiple rules, from the rule number 4, d or dx, so this is k, function of x, and here. So the answer is k d over dx over the f of x. So where the k is a constant. So the sum of difference rules from rule number 5, this is the formula. Rule number 1, derivative of a constant. In this lesson, we're gonna go over the constant rule for derivative. The formula for the derivative of a constant is the derivative of c is equals to 0. If you see the expression of differentiate, c is respect to x. So, we want to differentiate. We want to differentiate with some example. The derivative of 5 is equals to 0. And another one, the derivative of the negative 7 is equal to 0. So, there are no variable attached to it is gonna be 0. So, no variable, the answer only is 0. So, let's some example. The y is equals to 24. So, the y, so prime is equal to 0. The derivative of y is equals to 0, which is prime dash equals to 0. Another one, the f of x is equals to pi. And the answer is the f of x is equals to 0. If you see, pi is not a variable, it's a constant. So, the derivative of that function f prime of x, that gonna be 0. Another one, f of x is equals to 8. So, f of x is equals to 8. The answer is a f prime of x is equals to 0. So, let's use the definition of derivative. So the f prime of x is equals to the limit of f x plus h minus the f of x all over h. So h approaches 0. So the limit go to the function 8 minus 8 is h. H approaches 0. So let's go. The limit. So 8 minus 8 is 0. So 0 h, then the limit of h approaches 0. So 0 divided by h is 0. So that the derivative of any constant is 0. The derivative of any constant is 0. For rule number 2, derivative of an identity function. Which define a real number. So, f of x is exactly x. Let's create now the derivative of this function. So, we have the derivative of f prime of x, and I use according to definition of limit when x approaches 0. So, the derivative of x, the limit of f of x minus f x0 all over the x minus x0. So x approaches x0. So now we substitute. So the limit, the x minus x0, then copy this, x minus 0, x0, then x approaches x0. So over, we have exactly 1. So if you see, cross out, we have exactly 1. So limit, the limit, so over we have exactly 1. So x approaches x0. So we have the limit from 1, which is 1. So the derivative of this function f prime of x is 1. For rule number 3, power rule. But before that, let's recap the formula for the power rule. So the derivative of x n is equal to n x with the exponent of n minus 1. And now, let's solve a problem by this given formula. Let's try it. So the derivative of the x cubed. So the 3, bring down 3, then copy the x. So 3 minus 1 because the formula is this. So the answer is a 3x squared. So 3 minus 1, 2. So that's. In number 2, the derivative of x with the exponent of 1, x 1 minus 1 again because the formula is with negative 1. So it's equal to 1 x 0, then no exponent, 0. So the answer is 1. Another one, the derivative of 5x. So 5 multiplied by the derivative of x. So 5 times 1 is equals to 5. So x is a variable, so that 5 times x, 1, is equals to 5. For rule number 4, constant multiple rule. But before that, what is constant multiple rule? Constant multiple rule is actually a rule in calculus, where you can show the constant of the function. Actually, a changeable when it comes to the derivative of that function. So here what I mean like this. The derivative of a constant, the multiply by function, is equal to the constant multiplied by the derivative of that function. Here's the example. The derivative of the 7x squared is equal to the 2, the 7x, the function here is x squared. So if you know the power rule, you can apply it. Then 2 times 7 equals 14. Now, here where the constant multiple rule can be used when the rule said the derivative of the 7x squared is equal to the 7 multiplied by the derivative. Then the function x squared then equals the 7 to x. So 7 times 2 is equals 14. You can move the 7 outside. So, which is the same result as how we had before. Actually, this is the same. So, the constant multiple rule says if you want a constant times the function, you can move that constant in the outside of the derivative rules. The result were the same. Rule number 5, sum and difference rule. If you know the f and g differentiables function, then what is the truth of the derivative of sum dash function is equal to the sum of the derivatives. So that would mean the derivative of the function plus the derivative of the gx and the derivative of function minus the derivative of the gx. For example, the f of x is equals to 2. Then the derivative of the 2 is 0. And that's the rule for the derivative of a constant. And another, the g of x is equal to the x squared. Then the derivative of x squared is the g prime of x is the 2x. Again, for the power rule. So, how about this? The derivative of the x squared plus 2. So, first, you can get the derivative of each term. So, derivative of x squared and the derivative of 2. So, with the power rule and the derivative of a constant. So, for this one is 2x plus 0. X squared, again for the power rule, and this one for the derivative of a constant. So, that's some example. The derivative of the 3x cubed minus x squared plus 2x minus 3. So, first again, get all the derivative of each term. For this and 3 times 3 x squared minus 2x plus 2 minus 0. So, get the answer. 3 times 3 is 9. Copy the x squared minus 2x plus 2. So that's how we take the derivative of the sum and difference rule. Again, I'm Al-wally Salindan. Thank you for watching and keep safe.